Welcome to the second information session for the ACF McKnight Composers Fellowship Program. Today, we'll be getting into details about this program using previous awardees' applications as examples. This is a continuation of the previous session that will be available to watch on the ACF website soon. But before we get into that, we would like to introduce ourselves, starting with Carolina.
Hi, my name is Carolina Heredia, she, her pronouns. I'm a composer based in LA and the director of programs for the American Composers Forum.
Hi everyone, my name is Natalia Camargo. I am also a composer. I'm based in New York City and I am the program's associate for the American Composers Forum.
Hello, my name is Tim Eigel. I'm use he, him pronouns. I'm the artist support manager here at ACF. I'm also a composer and I'm based in Minneapolis.
Well, as Natalia said, this session aims to explore the application in more detail on how using the platform and different sections to best express your creative practice and to support your application. The intent of the McKnight Artist and Culture Bearers Fellowship is to recognize and support artists and culture bearers who are beyond emergent and have sustained experience in their area of practice. Fellows demonstrate achievement, commitment, and high-level proficiency in artistic and/or culture bearer practice that contributes to their field and impacts and benefits people in Minnesota. Even though the application may seem extensive, it is probably barely enough for you to express the full breadth of your creative practice and your story as an artist. So I encourage you to use as much of the available spaces as possible to give the panelists, who may be strangers to your work, a complete sense of you as an artist, which includes also who you are as a person. Throughout the application, you should provide the panelists with the information they are required to score. If they can't find this information, they may score you lower on those aspects. And so this is why we provide with the key evaluation criteria. These are the exact points that panelists are scoring, particularly in the phase 1. So make sure that you're clearly and promptly addressing the following points. For the artistic craft general category, there are 3 points. One is a strong sense of the creator's voice. Then the technical proficiency necessary to achieve the desired results, and the quality of work samples. So just as a quick review of how you can address this, a strong sense of the creator's voice will be mostly expressed in your artist statement and also in relationship with your work samples. The technical proficiency necessary to achieve the desired results can be better expressed in the description of your works, where you're describing your creative process and perhaps including technicalities about how do you obtain the results that they're listed in the work samples. The quality of work samples is something more subjective, and we encourage panelists to always frame this in a cultural context, depending on the specific creative practice, genre. Obviously, the better documentation you can have of your work, the easier it is for panelists to get a good sense of how your work may actually sound in real life. The second section, it's about assessing your beyond early practice stage in your career. So they will be looking at you having a significant body of work. And this is, again, something that you can describe in your list of works, of list of artistic experiences. Creative achievement can also be expressed in those sections. Achievement doesn't necessarily need to be related to awards. It can also be accomplishments you've had in your career. Sustained contributions to the artistic field and Minnesota's art ecosystem in the presence of collaborations with artists or organizations in Minnesota will be helpful to assess that. Again, these are all of the components of the application. An ideal application is connecting all of these sections, right? So your work samples, supporting your artist statement, and the insights into your artistic experiences as well being connected with those 2 other components. Even the demographic form can support your artist statement if you are engaging with a particular community, or if you have a particular creative practice that may be related to some of your background. And so today we will be focusing on the work samples, the artist statement, and the insights into your artistic experiences. Here are some general tips about the work samples. The total of music that you are allowed to share is up to 20 minutes. And there's some details about this that we went over in our first video. So if you have questions about that, let's go back to the first video. At least one of your work samples should be of a work you created in the past 5 years. And if you have previously received a McKnight Fellowship, concentrate your work samples on the period of time since your last award. And here's some more recommendations. You can provide links to your music samples from different platforms. Panelists are not very fond of using Spotify because it requires for them to have an account, and not everybody wants to be associated to Spotify. So it's discouraged, but still acceptable. Again, ensure the web links you provide in these applications remain active and unchanged until February 1st, 2025. And you can also have your samples unlisted, but just make sure that you're getting the right settings so that the panelists can have access to this. And there's instructions about this in the guidelines and in our first video. For each audio and or video work sample, please submit any accompanying documentation materials that will provide further insights into your creative process and clearly describe the nature of your involvement in creating the piece. This is an essential part. And the applications that we'll see today have two very different approaches to this. You can choose whatever you feel comfortable with. I recommend to trying to go into this in detail, especially if you notice that the panelists may be versed in other creative practices. Don't shy away from sharing technical details about how you arrive to the results you do in your work samples. Panelists are very curious to know exactly what your creative process is and how it then is expressed in the work samples. So, that talks about a little bit of your skills to bring your ideas into reality. If notated scores are part of your creative process, provide PDFs of the scores. There's a limit there on that one section that corresponds to the audio or video samples you submitted. Remember that there are queue times for the samples. So it is very helpful that if your work sample doesn't start at the very beginning and you have a score, that you indicate where in the score the work sample is starting, the cues. And if you have a PDF that is larger than 10 megabytes, or if you have other kind of documents that you would like to share as a description of your work samples, there's a space later on that where you can provide a web link to either a larger file or to a Google folder. Applicants whose work samples involve lyrics are encouraged to provide lyric sheets. This is very important because if there's text, panelists will be interested in knowing what the text says. And this could definitely take the place of a score if one is not present. A score is not required. So a score is part of the description of your work. So that could take the form of many other things, as we put in the next point. Any sonic representation for the review process, including video, spectrogram, waveform, graphics, or even a descriptions of your process. Definitely, please note that panelists cannot access music notation, electronic music, graphics, videos, or other specialized software. So include formats that are publicly available. And so here's basically the two main sections of work samples. You have work sample 1 that makes the most critical impression on the panelist and should represent your most distinctive and compelling musical example. As we express in the info session 1, the phase 1 of review only requires panelists only to listen to work sample 1. So this is why it's important that you also curate the order of your work samples. Work sample 2 then can complement that. So if you're describing a different creative practice in your artist statement, or something that you're focusing perhaps more in the present that is not expressed in work sample 1, then that could be your work sample 2. And so additionally, we added this option. Work sample 2 could be up to 10 minutes, or it could be shorter, and you can complement it with a work sample 3. Sometimes planners appreciate having more examples of what you're describing. So definitely make use of that option if that fits, your application needs. Once again, have the key evaluation criteria next to you as you choose your work samples, because they should represent all the aspects the panelists must evaluate, especially for the first round. If you are a previous fellow, please include work since your last award. And now let's look at deVon Gray and Alex Bissen's work samples as examples. These applications are very different from each other, so it just speaks that there's not a model application that it's guaranteed to be awarded. I want to show two different approaches. Panelists are trained to observe different formats of all your materials, so use the flexibility the application allows you to represent your creative output best. So here's deVon's work samples, and we're going to be listening to this while we keep on screen the description of the works for you to read. Now we're going to do the same with Alex Bissen's work samples. Thank you, Natalia. And so as you may have seen, these are two very different approaches, even to the description of the work. Alex has used like almost all the space allowed for descriptions, has gone into some, we're not only like talking about the concept of the works, that his relationship to it, and also perhaps some technicalities. And the work materials, the description of the work includes some of the technicalities for the setups that he is using in his electronic music. This is not a statement of like value. Nothing is like better than the other one. deVon is a person who speaks with a very poetic kind of style, and so there are like less words, but they're very evocative, right? And so this is simply to encourage you to be your true self, and that's going to speak to the panelists in any form or extent. That is up to you to decide like what it takes you to give a full overview of your practice to an external person, right? This is something that we also have to have in mind. This may be people, the panelists may be people that are completely unfamiliar with you and with your work. And so do your best in your style to present as much information as possible for the panelists to engage with your work. Okay, we're gonna see the same trend now in the artist statement. So as this slide says, it could take, again, several directions at your discretion. You should definitely talk a little bit about your background, the development of your work, your interests as an artist, or your aesthetic position, a view of your future artistic direction as you are envisioning currently, and any other information that you would like to present to the panel. So let's look at some examples. And these are excerpts from deVon's artistic statement. You will find all of this information in full in our website very soon. I should clarify that Alex's the full artist statement and deVon's was an excerpt of it. But if there is something, in my opinion, that is present in both of them, is honesty and vulnerability. And I think that is something that really speaks to panelists, and that's what they're hoping to get from your application, an honest expression of you as an artist, and that may require some vulnerability, sometimes as part of the process or of like discovering oneself as a person and as an artist. So that's always like very much appreciated. Let's move on then to this other section in the application that again can support your artist statement, your work samples, and also can support some of the evaluation criteria that the panelists are looking to evaluate. So this can be, again, many different things: a biography, a list of 10 artistic experiences that have shaped you as a musician, or simply a resume. We would like this document to enhance your artistic statement and provide further insights into your music creation. And as a general guideline, if you choose to list 10 artistic experiences, please go deeper into details on 2 of the most important experiences out of the 10. So let's give a look to what they decided to do for this. This is a combination of all of the above. And now let's go to the other one. And all of this will be then available in full in PDFs, as well as a PDF of the slides and the video recording from this info session in our website. So you'll have more time to read it in detail if you're interested. To me, it's important to show the different styles that perhaps can inspire how you're going to be approaching your application. There's no one right way. There are some desirable things, again, addressing all of the evaluation criteria, trying to be as honest as possible, not being afraid of vulnerability in your artist statement in particular, and then trying to find that integration between the different parts of your application. That works really well. You're kind of curating this experience of your creative practice for the panelists. Yeah, and so now we would like to open this for discussion, and we're going to be taking some questions.